Were you like me at that point? It's 4-3, and Rantanen has the puck on his stick just inside the right face-off circle with a bevy of humanity, to borrow a phrase from John Forsland, in front of the net, and you wanted him to shoot it, not pass it into the slot?
Well, I mean, first we need to address the music, because you said that's a positive song, but ever since The Sopranos ended, it's just kind of, I don't know if it's a positive song anymore.
Okay, that's very interesting.
Everything went black.
That is true. Very good point.
Yeah, I mean, I think hindsight is 20/20 on that.
Yeah.
If he shoots and it hits that, quote, bevy of humanity and bounces out of the zone, everyone's saying, why did he shoot? There was no shooting lane. So, you know, I guess we could, you know, pound the details all night, all day long. But it's just hard to say. Hockey's such a weird sport in that way. Who knows? It could bounce off of three guys and go in, or it could, you know, bounce off of a guy's shin pad and go all the way down the ice and go in the other net. So, yeah, I mean, I think he's lacking a little confidence shooting the puck right now, and that's understandable because he's hit a couple posts since he's been traded.
Yep.
He's had a bunch of chances that just didn't go. And but, man, I mean, especially there was one shift in that game where he was, you know, maybe the best shift I've seen a Hurricane play all season. So, you know, I get the panic. I understand why people are panicked. But
that's fine. He's played well. It is fun. The funny thing is that, you know, I do these, you know, I do the post-game show and I have to come up with 3 stars. Could you come up with 3 stars for that game? I mean, I couldn't. So I thought about doing a negative 3 stars. I thought that was disrespectful. So I just went with third period 3 stars. And I gave Mikko the 2nd star because I wanted him to shoot the puck. I actually thought there was a lane to shoot it. I understand why he was passing it. There were so many bodies in front. He thought that if he can get a pass somewhere into the slot, they could just, I don't know, maybe force it in like the Philadelphia Eagles in a tush push. But the Gostisbehere was good in the third period. Like Sebastian Aho regained something in the third period, but the first period was so bad, and the second period was kind of nondescript to me. What do you attribute to, I think, the decline over the last, I'll just say, month of games in Brent Burns?
Yeah, it's been a struggle, right? I don't know if it's just the wear and tear of playing, you know, 20 minutes a night at, you know, approaching 40 years old or what it is, but it's a tough situation. And, you know, the way Rod has tried to explain it is this is a different role for him. You know, he wasn't on a shutdown pairing last year or the year before because they had Pesci and Shea, but it's been tough. I mean, the mental mistakes is the thing that stands out. It'd be one thing if we were just talking about physical, you know, slow degradation of, you know, losing a step and things like that. But when you start throwing the pucks in the middle of the ice in the defensive zone, you know, stuff like that is just incomprehensible. Like, I don't understand. If anybody shouldn't be making that mistake, it's a guy with more than 20 years in the league.
Yeah, I mean, Slavin did a good job to get him the puck, you know, after a good forecheck by Toronto, and then he just backhand blindly throws it in front, and John Tavares is just right there, and who set up, Alex Steve's first NHL goal. It wasn't good. He lost David Kampf on the third goal, too. I thought the beginning of the season for Burns, he looked quicker than he did all of last year. I thought the first 6 weeks were great. I thought he was better defensively than offensively. He's not even adding offense right now. The makeup of the blue line, Corey, is not ideal in that there's no other, like Slavin might be the only partner for him, right? I mean, you can't play Burns with Orlov because Orlov has been kind of in the same boat as Burns has been lately. But if you wanted to create a shutdown pair, Slavin and Chatfield would probably do it.
Yeah, and, you know, it's tough because you can see the path to where they're headed as a defense beyond this year and even, you know, at the end of this year, maybe.
Yeah.
With the infusion they're going to get from Alexander Nikishin and Scott Morrow. And, I didn't think Scott Morrow did particularly much of anything when he was up.
Correct. He didn't play much.
Which is to be understood. I mean, he was playing as a seventh defenseman, and he wasn't playing in roles that he's used to playing in, like playing on the power play and things like that. So it's like, do you panic about this defense right now when you know where it's headed? We know what's coming, whether it's, it feels pretty certain that Brent Burns and Dmitry Orlov will not be back after this season.
Right.
And if you add Nikishin and you add Scott Morrow to that defense, and that's the route you go, we'll see if that's what they do, if they feel they can play two essentially rookies right off the hop. I think they probably can. You just need to figure out who fits with Slavin. Maybe it's Sean Walker to start. We'll see how that all fits out. Maybe Scott Morrow can play that role, but I think there needs to be a little more defensive polishing, and there's questions about that. But it's hard. It's hard to do much of anything right now, unless would somebody take Dmitry Orlov, and can you get, the other thing about this is, when does Alexander Nikishin show up?
Sure.
We just don't know, and when he does show up, we know he's going to be a great player. Is he going to be a great player right away? History says no. Hurricanes defensemen need some time to adjust.
Right. Yes, and especially coming from the KHL, which is, I would say, probably maybe a slight level up from the AHL. You're playing against grown men and great players. I don't know. They might be comparable leagues. I think it'll be a difficult adjustment. Certainly, the speed of the game be a difficult adjustment for Nikishin. Real quick, I spoke to Tony D'Angelo not that long ago. He thinks he'll struggle initially with the pace of the game, they were teammates over there, but he thinks that he has easily the potential to be a top pair, no worse than a top four defenseman in the NHL. Loves the kid's makeup, but he thinks the pace will be a little bit of a problem for him in the early goings. To me, that's the biggest problem that they've got right now. Looking forward this year is on the blue line, because they had made too many mental mistakes back there, and a lot of that is 8, and a lot of that is 7. Obviously, Slavin was so great in the Four Nations tournament. We see it all the time. But when he does it against McKinnon for 30 shifts a game, or McDavid, and he's doing it against those players all the time, it's eye-opening to see everybody go, "Oh my gosh, look how good he is!" But he is that good.
Well, and I mean, you also have to consider, I don't want to say that he has to worry about Brent Burns, but
sure he does.
Brock Faber played really well in that tournament, and all of a sudden, Jacob has a really good partner who he can trust to do the right thing. And Brent Burns knows what the right thing is, but like I said, that that pass to the middle of the ice, it's not the way you want to start this post Four Nations break, is just handing the other team a goal.
Yeah, it was inexplicably bad. For 2 periods, I don't know that I've ever seen Sebastian Aho play that poorly. What did you make of that?
Yeah, I mean, you got to wonder if there's a little bit of a dip in intensity. You've come out of that Four Nations, and now you're back into the drudgery of the NHL season. You look at the standings. It doesn't look like the Hurricanes are going anywhere in the standings. It almost feels locked in that it's going to be Devils Hurricanes at this point.
But you want to finish ahead of them.
Yeah, well, sure, yeah. But I mean, the Devils have their issues too.
They do.
So you have to wonder if that's just the mental mindset of, all right, it's time to ramp it back up and have to play at the level that's necessary. I thought it was interesting that Rod put Kotkaniemi up on the, essentially the top line. That's not something I think we've ever seen before.
No.
Is Sebastian get moved down, which
demoted?
Is what happened?
Yeah.
But I think, I don't think you worry about him too much. It hasn't been a great season for him. And then you look at the numbers and you're like, he's a point per game player. And, the power play obviously hasn't been as good lately. You mentioned Gostisbehere, and if he can get going, that's going to change everything on the power play. But yeah, not a great game for Sebastian. And knowing what he's like, he's probably, I would not, and the fact that he's going to be playing in Montreal, where it seems like he still has a little bit of extra juice for those games.
Yeah.
I would put some betting money on something for Sebastian Aho, just like I would say everybody should have put some betting money on the over for every game coming out of the Four Nations.
Oh, no question. It was always going to be a gong show. It was like the first game of the regular season. Look, Sebastian will be fine. I'm not really worried about him. We'll close on this because I know you get into the mental dynamics of this as well. How much pressure do you think Aho is putting on Aho to get Rantanen going?
To get him going?
Rantanen has played fine. I'm not complaining about the way Mikko has played. But to get him to contribute to scoring, because we always are going to judge Mikko, the general public, by how many points, not by how many chances he creates, by how many goals he could have scored, all of that. Because he could be well over a point a game with the Hurricanes if the puck goes in a couple of times or other people put the puck in the net a few times. But I'll bet you Aho feels a lot of pressure to make that happen.
Yeah, I don't think that's unreasonable to suggest. And I think, again, I go back to the power play. If you can get going in that scenario, then everything else falls into place a little bit, right? If there's not the pressure of we have to score at 5-on-5 because our power play is horrendous right now, then, maybe things are a little more natural at 5-on-5 and you're not trying to force things quite as much. There were a few plays in the game the other night where I could, the extra pass by Dmitry Orlov, you just shake your head sometimes, like what is happening? We started off talking about the Rantanen one, and you could quibble about that, but there were some where I just, one thing I think I'd like to see with Rantanen is I think he and Svechnikov have a little bit of chemistry. That's putting a lot of beef on one line. But if they're going to work well together, and it's been a struggle throughout his career to get somebody who plays well with Andre, I'd say almost lean into it. You could have, if that line were to click with Aho in the middle, that would be, arguably the best line that's ever played here. And
put Rantanen on the right and let Jarvis go back and play with Stahl and Martinook, because that line has had good chemistry. I'm here for that. I am here for because I think that would be a better fit for Andre in the way his mind is wired. The other thing, I would have liked to have seen him shoot on that 2-on-1 with Jordan Stahl, although it was a great save by Anthony Stolarz. Stahl didn't get a ton on that redirect, but pass was good. But I want to see Andre shoot the puck, lean into his shot a little bit more. It was good sign that he scored that one-timer goal as Carolina was out of nowhere making that a 4-3 game. Cory Lavalette, North State Journal and The Athletic, at Cory Lav on Twitter. Talk to you very soon. I'll see you Thursday.
Sounds good.
Thanks, man.